Oh,
Hey, morning. We're going to go ahead and get started, you guys. Thank you for joining us. My name is Natalie Guest. I'm with the Magnolia Business Alliance, and I have Joel Lawhead with me here as well. We're going to have a brief this morning from Dr. Burnett, who is also on the line, and he's going to be talking to us about unmanned systems, about the operational demonstration that was in June. And then we're going to get into what's going to be coming up in the near future, and also unmanned coast, which is something that myself and Joel Lawhead, who is here, is going to talk a little bit about very quickly before we go ahead and turn it over to Bill.
Yeah, so the Unmanned Coast is basically an industry-led initiative, a coalition of businesses in the unmanned industry. Our goal is to complement the direction the U.S. government, specifically the Navy, and the state is taking on unmanned initiatives, and create a business coalition to sort of address their needs, pursue work, and ultimately create a differentiator for people operating this area, pursuing unmanned work. And we'll invite outside entities as well, but just to sort of circle the wagons and begin sort of building capability in the area for such a broad spectrum of capabilities needed, from facilities to engineering to electronics to piloting to geospatial capabilities. So we're just trying to round all that up and organize it to address this burgeoning industry. That's about it.
Perfect. So again, thank you for joining us. And Dr. Burnett, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you to give us some more information.
All right. Well, thank you, Natalie and Joel. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, great. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to describe this fantastic event that took place along the Mississippi Gulf Coast at the end of May. The event was called a Navy Operational Demonstration, and it focused on Naval Oceanography's capabilities and our capacity to operate unmanned maritime systems in the Gulf of Mexico, and really gave us a chance to show off things that we do here in the Gulf Coast, and also show off the Gulf Coast as well. But before I talk about the event, I want to discuss a couple of higher level issues that will help frame some of the discussion. So Natalie, if you go to slide 2, the first is the Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral John Richardson, formed a task force Ocean that is chaired by Mississippi's only one-star admiral. It's a new admiral, Rear Admiral John Ocon, who replaced Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet as the commander of the Naval Meteorology and Oceanography Command at Stennis a few weeks ago. So the Chief of Naval Operations sees that the U.S. Navy and the U.S. in general is losing our competitive edge in understanding and operating in the ocean. So he tasked our commander and the commander of the Office of Naval Research, Rear Admiral Hahn, to put together a task force that will determine if the U.S. Navy has lost its competitive edge, by how much or how rapidly are we losing it, and then recommend solutions to the problem. As an aside, Mississippi Governor Phil Bryant reinforced his state's commitment to the U.S. Navy and the maritime industry by standing up a Mississippi Ocean Task Force to align Mississippi's maritime assets to support the Navy's assets and maintain its battle space competitive edge. So what Joel just talked about in terms of the unmanned coast is another subset of kind of an awakening that's taking place along the coast on how we can use unmanned systems, air, surface, and subsurface, to really move ahead with this opportunity. So, Natalie, if you go to slide 3, I also need to provide an overview of naval oceanography. The highest concentration of oceanographers in the world is located at Stennis Space Center, Mississippi. Most people along our Gulf Coast don't even realize that. Naval oceanography provides the home field advantage to Navy's away games. And as the commander of the U.S. Fleet Forces, Admiral Phil Davidson, said at our change of command a few weeks ago, the U.S. Navy makes sure that all our conflicts are fought away from our nation and our home shores, so we don't have to fight them here. So naval oceanography is critical for effective employment of our fleet. If we do get into a conflict with an adversary, we're not going to let it be a fair fight. Naval oceanography and all our capabilities will ensure that our forces are superior in operating in the maritime environment, and that they will overwhelm and destroy our adversaries if needed. So you see at the bottom left-hand corner of this slide, we have 3 strategies to ensure that we meet all our goals. And I want to focus on one of those strategies as it relates to the operational demonstration, our unmanned system strategy. So Natalie, if you go to the next slide, Our goal is to expand the number of unmanned systems that we operate, enables the fleet's use of future unmanned systems, and engage with industry and academia in future development of unmanned systems. We use the operational demonstration to help us quantify how we are succeeding in our 7 focus areas that you see near the bottom of the slide. If you go to the next slide, slide 5, in terms of our unmanned systems inventory, we've been operating unmanned maritime systems for over 20 years. We have over 20 different types of unmanned systems, and we've operated over 200,000 miles in distance with these systems. Along the top, you'll see that we operate unmanned maritime systems from the shoreline all the way to the deepest depths of the ocean, which is more than 6,000 meters. In fact, that one REMA 6000 that you see on the right-hand side, the number in parentheses is number of systems that we own and operate that are that size, and it's 4 of them, but there are only 6 in the world. So you can imagine that we corner the market in operating those type of instruments, platforms down at the deepest oceans. So we also operate them to support not just to observe the environment, the ocean environment, but to meet Navy warfare areas, and that's what we list on the left-hand side of that: strategic deterrence, undersea advantages. So we're collecting ocean observations, but we're also supporting the Navy in other types of areas as well. So if you go to slide 6, before we began this operational demonstration, Rear Admiral Gallaudet gave us 5 strategic goals to achieve, and I'm proud to say that we achieved all his goals. We continue to reinforce the critical importance Naval Oceanography has on the fleet and joint unmanned systems operations. The environment turns out to be the #1 killer of unmanned maritime systems, so we need to make sure that we know the ocean environment, we get it right before we deploy these systems. We brought together all our assets to demonstrate the full range of unmanned maritime system capabilities in an operational environment. We showed how critical the Gulf of Mexico's unmanned systems test and training range is to successful unmanned maritime systems operations. That's in a very hostile and difficult environment. The key are those 2 words: testing unmanned maritime systems in the Gulf and training our forces to operate unmanned maritime systems in a difficult environment. Within this, the University of Southern Mississippi graduated the world's first certification class of 15 students in operating unmanned maritime systems, almost all with the Navy, in the understanding, building, deployment, and operations of unmanned maritime systems. And what I'll do is I'll show a couple videos later of the class in action as they're deploying these systems. We're going to hold another operational demonstration next year, and we're working to bring the world's largest gathering of unmanned systems to the Gulf Coast in 2019. And this will be called Unmanned Warrior. And frankly, it's the Lollapalooza of unmanned maritime systems. So we're looking forward to holding that rather large international meeting back in 2019. And finally, we showed how critical it is for the Navy to have a common operational picture and command and control of the location and status of the unmanned systems. So Natalie, if you go to the next slide, proud to say we had over 300 participants in the operational demonstration and at the Mississippi Enterprise for Technology's Crawfish Boil event, where the governor announced the creation of his Ocean Task Force. The number of participants are only going to grow next year and the year after that. If you go to the next slide, we had command and control centers and forward operating bases located all along the Mississippi Gulf Coast. So it allowed people to see not only where we were operating in the Mississippi Sound and how we were commanding and controlling them, but we also had key points of interest along the Mississippi Gulf Coast that we could take industry who might be interested in moving their facilities down here and show them different places that they might be able to put their facilities. If you go to the next slide, Natalie, slide 9, we were also able to understand all the capabilities that the test and training range will provide the Navy, industry, academia, and the state. You see the different locations of this range in the slide, having different compositions like a coastal operating area, a shallow operating area, a deep operating area that goes out to 1 kilometer's depth, and the different characteristics of it. This is a great area, a vibrant area to be able to test unmanned systems in all sorts of different conditions. And finally, if you go to the last slide, during the operational demonstration, we focused on 7 different operational vignettes where we gave our operational forces goals to accomplish so we could quantify their impact. And now what I want to do is just show a couple of videos, 6 actually, to highlight different parts of the operational demonstration. But before we do that, Natalie, Joel, does anybody have any questions about the slides I showed? If not, then let's.
But if you want to type in the chat, please feel free. But we'll go ahead and start doing the first video.
Okay, so the first one is about GOMOD, and it gives an overview of the operational demonstration and highlights some of the vignettes we accomplished.
My partners, industry, Navy, the Air Force, and the Joint Force, and show them what we can do, and share with them
GOMOD is formed to demonstrate advanced technologies with some of the Navy's top decision makers. Just as important, it provided a collaborative environment for representatives from the Navy, academia, and industry, work toward giving the Navy the tactical and technological advantage it requires for operations here and abroad. And why is having this advantage critical right now?
For 20 years, the U.S. Navy has been the strongest fleet in the world. And with the competition, we own the air service for lots of that's changing. And that superiority that we've had is being lessened by our adversaries.
With a focus on secure communications, unmanned systems, advanced oceanography, the exercise accelerates the technology release cycle to deployment, to research and development, to fleet operational use.
That is a force multiplier, going from requirement to research and development to operations in a smart, efficient way.
Today we'll be discussing the intelligence surveillance analysis riverine vignette. So we are simulating an actual mission that is applies to 1522. The concept is that we're in a foreign area where you have very limited independent environment. A number of communities to learn more about the environment, and also the execution of the surveillance that would impact the overall mission success.
SPT-22 has been tasked with recovering a lone seal from a hostile environment. We've been tracking the seal for some time now and have determined he is within a few miles of this location. These conditions are favorable. Using satellite-derived bathymetry, the Naval Oceanographic Office provided AGs assigned to SPT-22's Riverine Troop 3 mapped the potential riverine routes clear of navigational hazards. Photographers at SPT-22 used an IVER-3 UUV to conduct near real-time riverine reconnaissance of those potential routes using a swath bathymetry system. This morning they used a quadcopter and saw what we believe to be our seal swimming and on foot steer along the banks of the Pearl River. We have localized the area of where we think he is now. SPT-22's Riverine Troop 3 has been deployed to the area. SPT-22 is inbound now.
GOMOD team is already hard at work planning for next year's event. We look forward to seeing you there.
All right, we're going to go to the next video now. It's a virtual worlds movie that was produced by the group who actually produced the first video, the Naval Undersea Warfare Center in Newport, Rhode Island. Since you can't see the operations of unmanned underwater vehicles, we use virtual world simulations to show the operations of the equipment. And so in this sea control vignette, and you can see some of the dialogue down at the bottom, The first, we're going to zoom in on the USNS Maury. That's our latest survey ship that was built in Pascagoula. It has a moon pool that you can deploy unmanned systems underneath the ship for safety of navigation, and allows us to deploy our unmanned systems easier. So our unmanned system is going to go through the area, and it will collect data on the bathymetry and any hazards that are in the area. And it's able to keep its position by radioing back to the ship. And so over long distances, it knows exactly where it's at. It can also, and it did, send back data to a surface wave glider, which was in the area. And we use the surface wave glider as a comms port, where the data could go back to a satellite and then down to a ship, or back to the Naval Oceanographic office, where we collected the data in real time and we're able to process it. So using that type of technology, we're able to process data in deep water and shallow water areas very quickly. We also used a hydrographic survey launch that collected the data in shallower areas. And this is a picture of what's called the Victory ship that's in the area. It's a sunken Victory ship. A lot of people go off and fish on it. So we use different types of technologies, one being our hydrographic survey vessel that went over and mapped the navigational hazards in that area to a very high resolution. And that's what the image looks like. Then we also used an unmanned aerial craft that had a laser system at the bottom of the craft called the PILS LiDAR system. And it was able to go over the area and collect data in the same Victory ship as well. And using these different systems, we could compare how well each system did. Leidos actually had an unmanned surface vehicle that they went over the Victory ship and collected data. So now we're bringing in an aerial vehicle, a surface vehicle, and a subsurface vehicle, all to collect data on that certain ship that's in the test and training range, so we can understand the reliability and applicability of all those different systems. And that's what some of the data looks like. All right, we'll go to the third video, and this one shows how we can use unmanned systems to map ports and port entrances faster to support humanitarian assistance and disaster relief efforts, something near and dear to those who live along the Gulf Coast, especially during Katrina. We actually use the Katrina scenario to show how unmanned underwater systems enable us to map ports faster than using manned vessels. So that's our Maritime Operations Center that you see there in the virtual world, and they're monitoring a weather event, which turns out to be Katrina, and now tasking all our assets to prepare for the event of Katrina coming over the area, and for deploying our assets. So once the storm goes through, we're able to collect data in different areas using unmanned systems. We have a high-performance computer that you see there that's able to take all the data and give accurate predictions out to now 5 days of tropical cyclones. So that's the prediction, and over the next 72 hours, it turns out that the hurricane develops as predicted. So before the hurricane hits in this area, what we do is we're going to send out different types of assets and unmanned vessels to collect data in the port before the hurricane hits. So what we want to do is something called change detection. We have data before the event and after the event, and that'll allow us to understand what type of objects ended up in the ocean after the hurricane passed. So we can use those as hazards and highlight them as hazards in case we have to remove them. So we use there's an unmanned REMUS vehicle that we used. We also forward deployed one of our surface hydrographic service vessels that the Fleet Survey team uses. They went out to Cat Island, and you can use a very small underwater vehicle called an IBR system to do beach surveys. And that's actually what some of our special operations folks use to get in very near shore to understand the beach slope. So you see them deploying the IBR system there. And it goes off and collects data before and after the hurricane passes. And that's the data that we're going to get back. So we want to use all this type of information to understand what hazards are in the area, what capabilities we're going to have to bring into the area to be able to provide humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. what we found during Katrina, it took a long time to get our manned vessels into different ports. And what we want to be able to use if there's a next hurricane, to be able to survey these ports very quickly so we know what hazards there are so we can get disaster relief in much faster. All right, the next video will show it's an actual video of the deployment and operations of an unmanned area vehicle called Sea Hunter that carried the laser system which mapped the location of the sunken Victory ship. All right, so that's a really interesting technology. Right now we're using a DC-3 aircraft that has a large laser system in it to map the ocean areas. I know Nellie and I have talked a lot about the technology that's used to get bathymetry using a laser system, a LiDAR system. Putting it on these unmanned aerial vehicles will allow us to get into a lot more, many more different areas, some that are inaccessible by manned aircraft, and allow us to collect a lot more data. So we're excited about that technology. The fifth video shows the University of Southern Mississippi's Point Sur vessel operating in the Gulf of Mexico that's carrying students from the Unmanned certification program. And they used a quadcopter to capture the video. And so the students are on the ship. You see one unmanned platform at the back of the ship, and another one sort of in the middle. And we took the students out there with Point Sur to give them a good understanding of how to put these in the water, how to retrieve them, and how to operate them. Out in the distance is actually one of the National Data Buoy Center's weather buoys that they used for calibration of where they're located at, and calibration of some of the instruments that they had on unmanned vehicles. And then finally, this last video just shows the students from the certification program learning how to deploy an ocean glider. It might seem to people that it's easy to do, but it's actually not. They actually tied a rope to it, so they retrieved the glider back. So they would take students out on this rib, learn how to deploy the glider, learn how to retrieve it, and then the data would go back to, or the piloting of the glider would go back to the Glider Operations Center, which is here at Stennis. But it's just good training, and that's something that we can do in our own backyard in the test and training ranges. Get our students out there, let them understand how to operate these vehicles before we hire them and bring them on at the Naval Oceanographic Office to be able to do them operationally. So if we get away from the on-the-job training and do it all at an educational academic facility where that's where they learn those skills. All right. Well, those are all the videos. Thanks again for the opportunity to discuss the operational demonstration. You know, we've only scratched the surface of the entire event. There's quite a bit that we did during that week. But I just wanted to give everybody some of the scope and magnitude that was accomplished. And I know that great things are ahead for the Mississippi Gulf Coast and for unmanned systems in general. So Natalie, Joel, I'll turn it back over to you for any questions, comments, or concerns.
Okay, thank you, Bill. I appreciate it. Does anybody have any questions? I've unmuted everyone, so if anybody has anything they'd like to add or comment on or ask a question, please feel free. I will say that the idea of unmanned coast is really, you know, in working side by side with Dr. Burnett and the Navy, we really want to be able to have a organized group of people and businesses and just different business partners to really grow the unmanned systems capabilities here on the Gulf Coast and be able to partner together and make bigger things happen. So anybody on this call that is interested in participating, please shoot me an email and let me know. We're going to be sending out something more formal here in the near future, working on a website, but we definitely want to grow this industry. It's the perfect place to do it, and especially all this information that Dr. Burnett has shared with us. If you hadn't seen it already, it's just a no-brainer to do that here and continue growing it. No questions?
Video. One quick question. Would it be possible to get a copy of the presentations that were presented here? Maybe not the videos, but the presentation?
I'm sure so. That's not a problem. I also am recording this webinar, so I will be posting that to NVA's YouTube channel, so I can definitely share that link with you guys as well. Then you'll have everything.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Well, all right, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Dr. Burnett, thank you so much for giving us all this information. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to all the great things that we're going to do together in the future.
Absolutely, Natalie. Thanks, and I look forward to telling you more about everything that we're doing as we go on. It is a great opportunity, as you said, and get into business now because you don't want to miss it.
Perfect. Sounds good. Well, thank you all so much, everybody. Have a great day, okay?
Thanks. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.